Hey, you came back. This is part 2 of Multi-DAW collaboration. The idea is I'm recording a song and contributing parts from 3 different DAWs: Pro Tools, Cakewalk, and Reaper. In part 1, I started some tracks in Pro Tools, exported them, brought them into Cakewalk, added some more tracks to Cakewalk, exported those new tracks, brought those back into Pro Tools. And in part 2, I'm going to bring Reaper into the mix. This is Rock Science, my home studio in Newport, Rhode Island. Over the years I've been in music and technology, I've seen the tools modernize and digitize, and played a part in that evolution during my 9 years at Cakewalk. Today, Rock Science exists for art's sake only. It's where I practice my craft and get to work on really cool projects. Okay, well, it's gotten dark out. I had to go get dinner. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to export an entire mix stem and hopefully import it into Reaper. I'm a big fan of using real percussion where possible. So I'm going to send it over to the Reaper guy to record a shaker part with this thing. I'll probably do it out in my big room with the high ceilings. So I like how it sounds out there. So let's see how we'll do this. What I'm going to do is just time select this second part where the mandolin comes in. That's where I'm going to want the shaker to be. And I'm just going to do a submix of these 3 tracks. The interesting thing about Pro Tools is that even if I do a full mix bounce like this, it will still be timestamped with the BWF header and have a good timestamp. So I'm just going to do a regular bounce to disc here. Isolate mix, that's a good name for it, I guess. And let's do it. Okay, there's that. And let's see what we got. There it is. The other thing I'm going to do when I go over to the Reaper side that I did not do in Cakewalk is I'm actually going to set the tempo over there to be the same tempo as my project in Pro Tools. In Reaper, I'm going to want the tempo, measure beats ticks to actually match what I've got here too. So I'm just going to look, I'm exactly 78 BPM here. I will set Reaper to 78.0 BPM there as well. And between that and the broadcast wave timestamps, we should be locked right up. So let's see how it works. Okay, it's a new day. I've got my coffee. We're going to take what I've exported out of Pro Tools, import it into Reaper, and I'm going to add this shaker track as Reaper guy. So let's go to our bounced files from Pro Tools, and what I'm going to want is this mix track that I did from Pro Tools. So to import into Reaper, first thing I said I was going to change the tempo of Reaper to match the tempo of Pro Tools. And that is 78 exactly. So it's important to do that first because if I do it later, Reaper by default will resample and actually change the tempo of the audio. It'll warp the audio. Definitely don't want that. Let's see, now the tempo is right. Gonna take this mix, drop it somewhere, see what happens. Okay, it just dropped right where I left the mouse up, just like Cakewalk did when the option wasn't set. In Reaper, as far as I know, you have to do this after the fact. So you right-click the clip, go to Items, Processing, and then you find this choice, Move Items to Source Preferred Position, BWF. That's a broadcast wave timestamp. Do that, and look, it moved it. So there's where the mix went to. And let's see, just as a sanity check, how it's lining up with tempo. Yeah, look, it's lining up with the bars and beats exactly as I played it. That's me being a little bit ahead of the beat as usual. Okay, so now we're going to record a shaker and go from there. Okay, Reaper guy has successfully recorded a shaker, that thing, And it sounds like this. Okay, so the next step we're going to do is we're going to export this out of Reaper so that we can bring it in somewhere else. Okay, so we're going to select the clip. We're going to go File, Render, and oh my gosh, look at that dialog box. There are a lot of choices. It's actually a bigger, scarier dialog box than Cakewalk's. You get to choose where you want to put your clip, all the usual stuff. The main thing we want to tweak here though is we want to do an individual click. So we're doing selected media items mode here, and it's a mono clip, so I'm going to make it mono. I'm also going to check these checkboxes that say tracks with only mono to mono file. Since there's no processing on this again, I'm just going to leave it 24-bit integer again. But the most important thing is to make sure this is checked. Write BWF chunk. That is the most important thing about this, because that is what's going to time align this when we bring it into another DAW. So I'm going to go to the external folder. There's the files that I rendered out of Cakewalk into my Pro Tools project, and here I am going to put Shaker Wave in here from Reaper. Maybe I'll even put a note that says from Reaper. Shaker Reaper. Do that. Okay, so I think we're set to go. We'll click one file. That didn't take long. Just for fun, let's show in Explorer. And there it is. Double click it. Sanity check, and it rendered it. Okay, so now we're going to bring this in somewhere else and continue on. Okay, so far we've started in Pro Tools, we've exported stuff to Cakewalk, we've added tracks to Cakewalk, we've exported those, brought them back into Pro Tools, we exported a mix from Pro Tools, took that into Reaper, added a track in Reaper, exported that track from Reaper, and now we're going to import that track into Pro Tools. So here's the external folder. There's our shaker from Reaper. I'm going to drag it down to an empty lane somewhere. It went to the wrong place, but as we know, we've got to go to the spot dialog in Pro Tools. So we'll click that, it changed the timestamp, click OK, and it moved it. And it plays in perfect time. Okay, so next I'm going to go off to the woodshed. I'm going to add a lot more stuff to this thing, and we'll come back and listen to the final product. Okay, well, what we've got here is a sort of a final-ish mix of a cute little instrumental piece recorded in 3 different DAWs. So let's have a listen and see what we got. There's the original stereo guitar track we did. Here's the single note track we did in Cakewalk. The bass was done here on Pro Tools after the fact. There's the mandolin track we did in Cakewalk. Synthesizer and percussion tracks, all native instruments, soft synths. Did that in Pro Tools. I did this slide guitar in Pro Tools. Here's the shaker we did in Reaper. These claps were done in Pro Tools. It's actually 6 of me clapping out in the big room. crushing it with the Waves SSL plugin. And there you have it. It's a 2-minute long instrumental piece recorded in 3 different DAWs. Although it was all done in one place, I went through all the steps you'd have to do a recording like this in 3 different locations. Hopefully went through all the settings that usually at least trip me up, maybe trip other people up. So I hope it cleared it up a little bit. It proves that it can be done. And it works quite well as long as everyone's got the timestamp set right and settings set right. It really does work. Get out there and collaborate over the interwebs and make great music, and stay safe, and thank you for your time. Take 75.